Alright, welcome everybody to the channel. My name is Matt. This is the Gaming Corner. Today we are going to talk about the Sega Saturn, which turns 30 years old today. Wow, can't believe it's been 30 years since the Saturn came out. Now, I know a lot of other retro channels have been talking about it and that. And I haven't watched any of their videos, so I don't know what they're talking about or what they're saying. But what I want to do is just kind of make up a short little video here about the Saturn. Talk about a couple of games that I really like and a couple games that shocked me on the Saturn that became favorites of mine. And naturally, you know, for the first game is the one you're seeing right now, is Daytona USA. Now this is the first one that they made that some people don't like all that well because of the pop-in and how they also say that, you know, it has frame rate issues. I've never seen frame rate issues ever in this game. I seen them in the Daytona Championship Edition, but not this one. But this one, Daytona USA, the first one, is still one of the Daytona games I go back to. I play this one more than I play the one on my Xbox 360, which is Arcade Perfect. For some reason, I love this one a lot more, and I play this one like mad. I sit there, I try to get the high scores in all of them. I have this version of it, I have the Japanese version, and I love to play Daytona. To me, this game has always been one of the best. Alright, so the next game we're going to talk about happens to be the packed-in game with my Saturn, and it is Virtual Fighter. Now, Virtual Fighter, for me, it's one of my favorite 3D fighting games from the arcade, and probably one of the big reasons why I wanted the Saturn, besides for the fact that I was a Sega fan. And this Daytona USA, Virtual Fighter 2, all the Virtual Fighter games that are on the Saturn, even the Fighters Mega Mix, really, in my opinion, showed off how good the Saturn was. You have iconic music, great fighting games, and just insane what they did on the Saturn. Virtual Fighter 2 is probably a slightly higher rated one for me than Virtual Fighter 1 at this time. But I still go back and play both of those. I played a Fighters Mega Mix, which is probably one of the best beat 'em up Sega did when they combined two of their fighting series. But yeah, the Virtual Fighter series was a definite must-have if you have a Sega Saturn. So now let's move on over to one of the games that caught me by surprise, and that's Warcraft, the Dark Saga. Now this one, like I said, the game really caught me by surprise because I really didn't play many of the RTSs at the time. I bought this one kind of like on a whim. And Warcraft 2, the Dark Saga, wow, this is actually really good on the Sega Saturn. I think it's actually probably better than what it should be on the Saturn, but it is a game that if you like RTSs and you like, you know, these style games like the Command and Conquer series and that, this is one to look into. I always played this game as the Orc army trying to kill the humans, and they did a really great job on this game. Now this game, if you do want to get it, I think it's still available on GOG, G-O-G. You can still get it there, so you can definitely take a look at it there and get the original one that was on PC back in the day. But if you have a Saturn and you're looking for it, this is one to go and grab. The next game that surprised me, well, this one didn't surprise me as much, I guess I could say, because the Mansion of the Hidden Souls I played on the Sega CD, and I loved that game on there. So when I noticed that there was another one on the Sega Saturn, I just thought it was going to be like an update like Sega was doing with 32X games, Sega CD games, or just adding more to it. So I'm like, probably just going to be an update, but it should still be a pretty decent game because I liked the first one and the puzzles were really fun, so I decided to grab it. What surprised me in this one is that I'd have to say this is technically more of a sequel from the first game. Because they do mention that you've been here before and you're back again and all that, and you're investigating some stuff. Really fun puzzles. It's a really well done puzzle game in my opinion. Not too hard, not too easy. just about the right amount of challenge. This game, when you're watching this little bit of gameplay right here, might remind you of Resident Evil as I'm walking around trying to open doors. It definitely had that kind of a look graphically wise, but it's definitely nothing like Resident Evil. So, but this one was definitely good. And this is one I do say check out, if you can find a way of playing it and just see what you think of it. But this was one of them that, my love for the Sega CD version transferred over to the Saturn version, and I picked up the Saturn version too. So definitely one I think you guys should check out. So last thing I'm going to talk about with the Saturn is don't overlook the Japanese market for games. So this game here, King Battle 2, or Sprint King Battle 2, whatever, it's a Japanese downhill racing game. Similar to what you're seeing if you play Forza Motorsports in the 20-year anniversary just come out with the drift setup that they got in there right now, where you go down the side of the Japanese mountain. That's what this game is basically based on. You can drift down the mountain if you're good enough, which I am not. Do not mind this gameplay you're about to see, because I really sucked at it. But this is another one of the games that never came to the U.S. and was actually really, really good. And this is just one of them that makes it fun to have. The other ones are, there were a lot of shooters that were out in Japan. From just so many of them. Strike Fighters 1940, or Strike Fighter 1945 and 1945-2 were out there. You have what was known as Galactic Attack in the U.S., Layer Selection in Japan. A lot of the games from Japan are still cheaper and somewhat easier to get. The last thing to look at if you're getting a Saturn, I would recommend looking into getting one of the Saturn S Saru cards. It's basically a memory card that sits in the back of your Saturn and allows you to play basically any Saturn game that you can think of. Question would be, you have to figure out where to grab this stuff from and stuff like that, but that is another great idea. So that is my little thing on the Saturn here. So I wasn't planning on making this video too long or anything, but for Saturn being around for 30 years, it's been a great unit. Cut short by Sega, unfortunately, because of Sony's PlayStation. I think if Sega would have stuck with it and just allowed their developers time, they would have had some really great games for this thing. Even better than what they had here. But alright, everybody. For the Saturn being 30 years old, it's becoming a very old man. Pretty soon it's going to be complaining of back pain, knee pain, and every other kind of pain. But I hope you guys like this little video. Get a chance to see a few things I talk about that I think the Saturn did really well at. And like I said, definitely make sure you check out the Japanese market also. Alright, until the next video, I thank you guys for watching this one, and we'll see you in the next one.